Jin Liang, a collector from China's Zhejiang province, had collected over 1,140 versions of the Communist Manifesto in a total of 44 different languages. November 28th, 2020 marked the 200th anniversary of the birth of Friedrich Engels, the co-author of the Communist Manifesto. On that day, Jin donated his entire collection to the government. By now, only 12 copies of the first edition of the Communist Manifesto in Chinese can be found in the country. Each has become the top treasure of the respective library and museum. The first person to introduce famous historical figures like Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels, and socialism and other European ideologies to China, was a British missionary named Timothy Richard. He also translated excerpts from the Communist Manifesto into Chinese and printed them in the religious and political publications, for which he served as the editor-in-chief. A century ago, when China fell under the rule of separate warlord regimes, it was extremely difficult to publish a full translation of the Communist Manifesto, and the book was once banned across China. In 1915, 24-year-old Chen Wangdao, studying at Japan's Waseda University and later becoming a linguist, was influenced by progressive scholars in Japan. He began an intensive study of the Japanese translations of Marxist works. Upon returning to China after graduation, Chen was asked to translate the Japanese version of the Communist Manifesto into Chinese. He went back to his hometown and devoted nearly all his time to the translation. Story goes that he was so consumed by his work that one time he mistook ink for syrup while eating zongzi, or glutinous rice dumplings brought to him by his mother. Without looking up, he finished the dumplings dipped in ink and said it was so very sweet. It was not the ink, but rather the taste of truth that he was hungry for. It took Chen more than 2 months to translate the Communist Manifesto into a booklet of only 20,000 characters. He took the utmost care with every single word.
这个版本采用了接近日常语言的这样一种口语体的一种翻译方式，更适合广大群众来阅读学习，更适合在劳动阶层来传播。
However, the Weekly Review, the magazine which was meant to publish the Chinese translation, was shut down by the local warlord regime. The booklet was not published until August 1920, thanks to the funding from Communist International, with 1 printing machine and 4 temporarily hired skilled workers. For that publication, Karl Marx's half-length portrait was printed in red ink on the cover. Marx had this photo taken in London in 1875, and it was because of this photo that this edition came to be known as the Red Book. Due to the rush in publishing, the title of the book was misprinted and there were over 20 typos in the rest of the work. Initially, only 1,000 copies of the first full Chinese translation were printed. 1 month later, an extra 1,000 copies were ordered. Marx's portrait on the cover was changed from red to blue, but that didn't slow people down from buying the book. Over the next 6 years, 17 editions of the book were printed, making it the most widely circulated, influential and well-known Marxist work in China in the 1920s and 30s. As a result, the book was declared a forbidden text by the authorities. In order to get the books out to the public, titles and publishers were changed multiple times. Like other masterpieces that have rocked the world, this extraordinary publication changed the lives of countless people, especially the progressive Chinese youths at the time. Notable examples include Mao Zedong, the first chairman of the New China, Vice Chairman Liu Shaoqi, and Zhu De, the Commander-in-Chief of the People's Liberation Army. Premier Zhou Enlai once told Chen your translation has made us who we are today. In reality, Chen Wangdao was not the translator's original name.
所以当时1918年，他就想把名字改在陈王道，寓意就是追望大道，开辟一条新的拯救我们国家的这条道路。